Welcome to Sparking Success with Aaron Opalewski. Aaron brings you conversations that spark innovation, cultivate leadership skills, and pave the way for your business success. In each episode, we delve into the dynamic world of business and leadership, exploring strategies, insights, and success stories that fuel your professional journey. Well, hey everybody, welcome to Sparking Success. My name is EJ and I'm joined with Aaron Opalewski, my good friend. Aaron, how are you today?
I'm doing well, man.
Man,
weekend.
It was a great weekend. Excuse my voice, everybody. I'm going to let Aaron talk as much as possible, but the kids had some sporting events this weekend, and your host over here, I yelled a lot in a good way. I was very encouraging, not yelling at them, but
You're hot. You're the hype man.
I was the hype man. And
very good hype man.
I try every once in a while. I appreciate that compliment. Thank you, brother. But today we're going to talk about, I think, a really neat topic, and it's something that we all need to be thinking about consistently. And, I think we'll end up titling this something along the line of what is a what if mentality? And that's what we really want to talk about today, Aaron, is that what if mentality. And there is, I believe, 1,000 different ways we could take this episode, but we've been learning a ton about this. And these what if scenarios, and they lead to a bunch of amazing things. So kick us off here a little bit and give us some thoughts about this what if mentality.
Yeah, well, I think it's a mindset, first and foremost. So it's and you want it to be a positive mindset.
Yeah.
So, we talked about this a lot, like in this frame, and I've actually been thinking about it more because we just did some mental toughness talks. And I was thinking back to like early on in Spark's history. And we used to talk about this a lot. And I'm like, you know what, I'm going to start framing it this way a little bit more because it didn't come up in my talk. But as I was preparing for my talk and then after the talk, I was thinking about it. I'm like, man, I really like this what if mentality. And I want to start just talking about that a little bit more. Here we are a week later, less than a week later, doing a pod, which I love about this.
That talk was brilliant, by the way. I mean, that you just did on Mindset the other day. Tons of great feedback from recruiters all over the country, and it was really good.
Yeah, thank you. And part of making it good is like I can just focus on that, and you guys got us all dialed in. So thank you to you guys. It went well.
Yeah,
and I always love supporting Ben and his events, and it was a good event. So, yeah. But okay, so a what if mentality. Think positive mindset. It's like really like you look at a situation and what could come from it. Man, if we go at this situation, we think about it from a like sales aspect or servicing a customer. Well, if I do a great job servicing a customer, they'll introduce me to someone else. Maybe they have other parts of their business that you could work within. Maybe there's more openings. There's the opportunity to work in different departments, different locations. And it's like you have a choice in these scenarios, so specifically with our business. Like think about you had a customer in here last week.
Yeah.
And they're tied to another bigger company, right? So I won't get into the name dropping scenario, but think about that. That would be an example of a what if mindset.
Yep.
Like, hey, like we could get in with this company. We could do some work for them.
Yeah.
Provide some value. We might be able to get in with their whole supply base. We might be able to work with all their locations. Hey, I know that they're, the company that they're, a part of or that owns part of them has their own marketing department, but who's to say you couldn't get involved? Like that's just an example of like, well, where could this take us?
Yeah. And I think that what we've not only learned over the years, but certainly we're honing in on again and again right now is the pure aspect of that mindset that if you have that meeting, if you have that conversation, if you have that opportunity arise, what if it turns into X, Y, or Z?
Sure. Well, and I think part of it is just like, you look at a situation and it's just approaching it with the right mindset and focusing on doing a great job for the customer. So it's like, hey, I'm getting this opportunity. I'm super being grateful for it. So there's gratitude tied to it. Like, I'm so grateful for this opportunity. I want to do an amazing job. What happens when we have gratitude and then do an amazing job and over deliver for a customer? It generally leads to great things. It might just lead to a happy customer, but in and of itself is amazing. Can you get a case study off that, or like a testimonial? Can you get the repeat business? Will they refer you to other customers? Will they introduce you to other people within their company? Are they going to think of you again, whenever they have a need in their area? And a lot of times those things can happen like pretty quick, too, or they can kind of like spiral off each other where it's like, hey, a great example of this, if you're on the right track, is if you do something for someone, I was thinking about this. Could you do this for me too?
Yeah.
Could you do this for me? Do this? Like, hey, you guys did a great job with this. Like, and they start just kind of, that's what you want. That's how you know you're on the right track.
Yeah. It was neat. You referenced a large company that was in the other day.
Yeah.
And that company initially came in to the portfolio of companies to talk about some staffing solutions.
Correct. Yeah, there you go.
They have for years, not in a negative way, but just said like, hey, we don't typically use a firm to help us. Mm-hmm. We do that all internally. And, we were walking them around and talking about the different companies within the portfolio. They stopped here in the studio. We got an opportunity to share with them a little bit of what we do. And that what if likely is going to come true for Bolt. And it may be the lead in for the rest of the companies.
Right.
That's the what if mindset that I think so many of us need to be reminded of. Now, you just mentioned something that I think I want you to dive a bit more into. And that was the what if mindset of if somebody's not ready to jump, pull the trigger, to commit, somebody else may be within that organization, right?
Yeah.
A different department, a different plant, those type of things. How have you seen that play out in the past?
Well, I mean, if you listen while those things come up, you might be able to do a transition to, I think you want to be careful. What I don't love doing is this can work against you too. You can be thinking this way.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're thinking too much this way, you want to be able to get there and then get into the meeting with the customer and just listen to them. And really the way to all these other things that you could do with somebody, right, is by doing a great job with whatever opportunity that you have.
Yeah.
Be a good steward of that. Okay. So then let's say you're focused on that and you're doing a great job of listening and they don't have anything right now, but you heard them mention 4 or 5 other things that you could help on, right?
Yeah.
Well, in that case, I think I may go to, okay, like, let me bring those things up and see if they can help me get like, hey, like, I really appreciate your time. It was great, to talk with you. I know you're not ready to use the service, whatever. Let's just talk in general right now. The service in the next 90 days, I'd love to, keep in touch on that. Hey, you had mentioned this, and this area. You mentioned this one other area. My partner company, one of our companies in our portfolio, they do some media. Could we meet them and just show them what we do or hear more about what their problem is? Because what you had said, I need to learn more, but I think we could actually help with that.
Yeah. You keep the main thing.
Yeah, but
and then work from there.
So it can go 2 ways. If we get kind of stonewall and they're like, hey, we're interested, but we don't have a need for this service now, but you heard other things that you could do for them. I was just using one of our portfolio companies as an example, but it could be other stuff too. Like then I might start to bring up some of those other stuff to like see where we might be able to diagnose helping now. But what I don't like doing, like, let's say they bring you in for a need and they have it and you hear 4 or 5 other things. Well, they probably don't trust you yet if you haven't worked with them. Right. So like what I don't want to do is come in and try and do everything when they bring me in for an opportunity to work on something because they have a problem and they want help on that problem. The last thing I want to do is spray them with all the things that we can do.
Right.
Because if it's me, and I'm that customer, I'm feeling like you're not listening to me right now. Like, here's my pain point. Here's what I need help with. Like, that goes for anything in life. Like, if we go to the doctor and we have something that we need help with, like, and they start talking to us about 18 other things, like, okay, but like, what about this?
Yeah.
And so I think it's the same in like business and sales. Like, if you're brought in for a pain point, it's one thing if you just can't do that, and then you would tell the customer, but if you're going to focus on that, and I've never worked with them before, let me build up some trust, build up some rapport. Let me do a great job on that, then come back. They may just give me more work, right? And I got to assess that again. The time to try and get to the other areas that I heard would be do a great job, build some rapport, show them that I was focused on their needs and putting their needs first. And then for us, it's a core value, like find a way to deliver value. Well, if there's nowhere else to deliver value at that moment in that department, then I'm going to bring up these other things.
Right.
And I'm positioned better to actually have them listen and be open-minded to me helping, because I help them out so much in their area.
Yeah.
Specifically in our situation where I can say, if it's not me, right? It's like, hey, look, you mentioned this. It's not me that's the expert in this, but I have an expert within our portfolio that could really help in this too. I wanted to focus on the project that you gave to us, and I'm very grateful for it. But now that that's complete, and you're saying you think you're pretty much done, with where I can help you in the next 90 days, let me come over here and see if I can help you over here.
Yeah.
Sorry, that last part was me kind of stepping outside of the role play.
No, I like that. And even the last statement made me think of something, and I bet you people watching are thinking it too. What does the what if mindset do for business growth?
It can explode it, or it can keep you where you are. And if you stay where you are, you're going to retract at some point.
Okay.
Because, it works the other way. Like if I have if my what if mentality just like isn't there, or I'm poor, like I have a limited mindset, instead of a growth mindset on stuff, or a fixed mindset. Well, I can look at the same situation. If you're looking at it with a what if mentality, and I'm looking at it like, oh, you know what? This is just one small little project, and I don't really know if it's worth my time, or you know what? I don't want to do that because I had this come through on a Saturday. Well, some other business is going to do it.
Yeah.
And maybe that turns into a bunch of other, business for them. Well, they're deploying the right, let's stick with you. You have the growth mindset. So they call me, and I'm like, man, it's Sunday. It's raining out. It was supposed to be warmer than it. I'm just I just don't want to do that today. Okay, well, they have problems. They call EJ next. And EJ is like, you know what? Yeah, like I'm going to get right on that for you. Small little thing.
Yep.
Maybe you don't even make money on it, or
right.
a little bit, but you come through for them. Next thing you know, they're introing you to another. Hey, EJ, can you do this for us?
Right.
I never get the call back. These are things that build relationships. And right. Start doing that over and over. And where you see some of our relationships that, Bolt's not, over a decade old, but, right. Talent is. And you hear stories all the time of clients that we've worked with for over a decade. And you could see certain situations where we'll do projects based off trust. Well, that is part of the compound effect of working with someone over periods of time.
Yeah.
And deploying this. If you don't build up a track record, then you just don't have that.
Yeah. I wonder, Aaron, we talk a lot about business. Obviously, we talk some life situations and things like that. This what if mindset
applies to life too.
Yeah. I and one of the things, obviously we're friends, we're business partners. But I love you as a leader. Like I've seen it both here within our portfolio of companies, but outside in the things you're involved in too. And I won't, too heavily man crush right now. I think that'd be a little awkward for everybody watching. But within that, how is this what if mindset grown your life? How does it affect you in the other areas?
Well, think about, I don't know about you, but for me, like when I ask my wife out, like there's a little bit of this mentality.
Yeah.
It's like, there's some nerves in doing that at some level, even if like I don't recall being like super nervous, but like still when you like kind of go, like you throw that out there, you're like, okay, let's see how this goes.
Hold on. Okay, so Aaron's a good looking guy. He's, athletic. He's, building successful businesses at this point. But your wife is stunning. She's godly. She loves the Lord. She's got this full package. So I could see you had to have that. You're like, whoa.
Taller than me. So,
you said it, not me.
Only it depends what shoes we're wearing.
That's right.
You got to be strategic.
That's right.
But yeah, like, so you could, let's just use that as an example. I could have just not asked her out because of that. I was confident enough to still ask her out. And, but hey, if I had the wrong mindset on that, like, what, we're not married.
Yeah.
We don't have our 2 kids.
Right.
There's stuff like, let's look at like our relationship with God. Like, like there's opportunities. Like, I'm not someone that's like I come from Assemblies of God background. I remember, this is really a stir of the pot, but I remember as a kid being out on like, being taken out to picket lines for like, protesting, stuff. And I'm not a big fan of protesting in general now, but, I remember this, right? Super extreme, like kind of in your face on like, you got to operate this way as a Christian. That's how I recall it. That's kind of why I stepped away from my relationship with God for a period of time, because I felt like I always had to be perfect, right?
Yeah.
So I've grown up and just have a different perspective on that now. I think knowing that like no one's, perfect, and we all struggle with things and we all sin. And that doesn't mean we can't have a relationship with God, right? Sorry, my phone is going. Apologize, everyone. Just cost that. There we go. Well, I'm not perfect now, but pretty much weekly, maybe not daily, but weekly, I'm put into situations where you weren't on this thread, but the other night we were talking about a business thing, and there was, we had won a project with the client, and I know a lot about the client.
Yeah.
And I know the background of the company, and that the company was built like with a foundation in the owner's faith in God. And so I shared that on this thread. And then I was talking about how, that company's been around longer than us, right? But how that their story is similar to ours in a lot of ways, and how grateful we should be to have the opportunity to do the project. And that we look up, to this company in the way that they built that to last, with a good, strong foundation. And it starts with this guy's relationship with God.
Yeah.
And I got to share that, like, that's a lot of how our company has been built too.
Yep.
And so what's the what if mentality in that? Well, I could just leave that out and say, oh, I'm not going to bring God into the workplace and all this stuff. But like, I think you got to be authentic to yourself. And if something's true, there's some stuff maybe you just shouldn't say sometimes, but when it comes to stuff like this, I'm not going to like jam it into every conversation, but when there's an opportunity to bring it up and it's the truth,
yep,
I'm going to share it. When there's an opportunity to talk about why we want to be grateful, why we look up to an organization, why we want to continue to embody, how we build our company, how they built theirs, and then tie that together to how we need to like really come together as a team and work well for them on a program. Why wouldn't I do that?
Right.
Because I can do both. I can put some influence in there, say, let's go after this and find a way to deliver value and be people driven, service focused and others. Well, I can also throw principles of like why, I have a relationship with God and how that's really shaped a lot of our decision making within the company. So I look at that as a way that I get to witness without like being super
pickety.
Yeah, pickety.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah.
Like it's not forced.
Right.
And I don't do it all the time. And frankly, there in the past, there'd be times where, because like, you're in some meetings with me, there's some choice words that I use.
All of us.
In some meetings. I'm passionate. And so sometimes, I think I'm working on that, but then back to like the uniqueness, like I'm not going to, it's just something I do. So I'm not going to, like even on the podcast, I'm not going to, we don't swear a ton on here.
Right.
But like, I have probably before, I think on the podcast is we're passionate, and I'm not going to sit up here and say that I don't. Like I might as well just be real with people.
Yeah.
But just because I, use one too many, F-bombs in a conversation doesn't mean I'm going to then hold back and be like, oh, like I can never share my faith because I dropped that F-bomb.
Yeah.
I think I should probably acknowledge both, that I could clean up my language a little bit. I use it when I'm passionate. And I also have, a growing relationship with God, and I want to tie that in. And if there's a legitimate opportunity to like witness within that, like I'm going to do that.
Yeah. I think more often than not, people would want the real you than this, put together shape of things.
So I don't know if that answers your question. Those are two examples of like, well, I could just be like, oh, this doesn't, I'm not going to, try and date Anna because she's taller than me, or, I'm not going to talk about my faith because I'm not perfect. But I chose to ask Anna out, and, I didn't all the time, but now I choose to talk about my faith where it makes sense and I can tie it into a situation. Why would I not talk about it? If I don't talk about it, I'm lying.
Right.
I'm not telling you the whole story.
Yep.
I even in the talk, I didn't talk about it a ton, but on the mental toughness thing we did, like I talked about my relationship with God for only a sentence or two.
Yeah.
But I did. And if certain questions would have came up, I would have gone into it further.
That's right.
Because it is a big part of that. And I think there's something to understanding that like we're a speck of, like we're not a big, we think we're a big deal. We're not in the grand scheme of things. Right. And there's something powerful to that. So I think it's cool to be like, we have a place by the ocean, even though right now we can't get to it. But there's something about being around the ocean. You just realize how small you are.
Yeah.
Being around, like we're in God's creation. We kind of go do the same stuff. So, you get in front of something like that. Some of these like, wow,
yeah,
there's a big world out there, and like I'm a minimal part of it, right? Like there's something humbling in a good way about that, right? So,
yeah, I love that perspective, and I think that's a huge part of that what if, mentality and mindset. I know people love hearing stories. I think, going into this episode, I was going to ask you, give us a story of what your biggest what if mindset or mentality win
I'll give you one.
Hold on, because I think you just shared the biggest, so I'll be careful with that because I love your sweet wife. That's just such a huge win, but it sounds like you have one.
I have a business one.
Yeah, please.
Because I couldn't, if I tell this story and it wasn't real, you'd be like, no, that's too much stuff.
Yeah.
So, okay, here it goes. So we have a prospect client that I called on for, I don't know, 6-7 months, which is actually not that long. Like a lot of my prospect stories is like years. Like the client we just talked about that we worked with for a decade.
Yeah.
Well, I called on him for 5 years before we got a meeting. It ultimately wasn't even me that got the meeting. It was one of our team members.
Okay.
So I never even got him. Like I got ultimate rejection out there until we didn't. That's why it's always a not now. It's not a no. Like, so, and now we've got a great relationship with them. Okay. So there's that story I'm going to share. So I called on this company for like 6 or 7 months, and we get an opportunity. It was a call center, and we end up getting an agreement with them, doing placements. They expanded to like 4 or 5 locations. And I don't know, we would have anywhere from like 60, 70, 80, 100 people, out at their call centers. They were expanding. We did a good job. They used us more and more. I was very involved in the day-to-day, talked with a couple of the ladies there that worked, with that entity every day, multiple times a day, multiple emails, because we had so much going on there.
Got it.
Out there, a couple times a week, like knew them well. So we start Spark, and we've talked about this company before. It was one of our customers that we brought them on, and when we started Spark, and it was part of our like pro forma, and they sold the company like 3 months later.
Right.
And we had 50, 60 people out there at the time of transition. And within 90 days, we had like no one out there anymore, which was hard. So, okay. So you fast forward 8, 9, no, 10 years. And I'm sitting at the table to when we're going to buy our pizza stores with the owner that we're buying it from,
Okay.
right? And his daughter comes in who works for the company, and it's one of the girls that I used to work with at this call center. So then I find out the guy that we're buying the pizza stores from, it was his sister that owned this call center that I worked with back in the day. And so Angela, who I had worked with back in the day, she was one of my two main contacts at the call center.
Okay.
She now works with her dad at the pizza stores. So we buy the pizza stores, and then we decide Angela is one, she's awesome, great worker.
Yep.
Very smart, good in accounting, good on HR training, like great person to have on your team. And so we had worked together like client, business relationship in the past. Well, we kept her on the pizza store business. Like she came in and
It's part of like
work with
transition. Yeah.
Yeah. Why wouldn't we? She wanted to work still. She did a great job. I'm like, this is great. So it had been a little over a decade probably since her and I had like worked together in any way. But now, we buy the stores from her parents, and she stays on with us.
Mm-hmm.
So now you fast forward a year and a half, and I see a name of someone interviewing for one of our spots on an executive role for the portfolio of companies and workforce solutions. And it ends up, I'm not involved like right away, but I see the stuff coming through. And so it ends up that her husband applies to one of the jobs, told her after the fact. And if anything, that probably made us more like critical of the process,
right?
Which maybe not be fair, but just like the dynamic, it's like, okay, we know some people here. We knew it, like we had that conversation, like, right? Like,
yeah.
And it's just a part of that. Like it can be great, but there's just stuff that you gotta talk about because you ultimately got to do what's best for the company in each of these situations. So if anything, this person gets vetted even harder, within that. And so here we are 70 days later, and he's coming on to Spark Companies, and he's going to be, one of our new executives coming on. He has 17 years experience in the automotive industry at one company, promoted a bunch of times, and now he's coming over to join us. So like, look at all those,
so many
factors at play. Like you wouldn't think that's like, I don't know what that is.
Right.
And the whole story isn't told. We got a lot of work to do at the pizza stores. Excited to have Ryan coming on.
Yeah.
You got to give him the first day and get going, but, no pressure, but, it's a cool story so far, and I think we're going to make it an even better one.
Yeah. So it's amazing.
But like, I couldn't, if I tried to like make that story up, like it wouldn't be that out there.
Right.
So,
right.
So I don't know. There's just,
I think
one to share.
That's great. And it leads to so many different opportunities. And the growth mindset mixed with the what if mindset, or if they're one in another, even, I think at times they coincide.
It's the same thing.
Yeah.
I think the growth mindset is like, I want to focus on growing. And to me, the what if mindset is more like tactical. Like it's the same thing, but it's more like tactical. Like here's a situation. Think about it from a growth mindset. Mm-hmm. Like in the moment, what could happen here?
Yeah.
And then at the same time, okay, well, I can't just sit there and like, I'm not going to visualize everything into existence. Although I do think that's an important thing I think there's something to that. We have to mix that with action.
Yeah.
So part of the what if mindset is taking action.
Mm-hmm.
So it's thinking about it and being creative and visualizing what could happen, and then just go doing what's right in front of you, because that's the path forward to getting there.
Yes. There's nowhere else I want to go in this episode than to leave it literally right there, because I think that speaks volumes. If you have the what if mentality, that's your mindset, then you go and take action on it.
Yeah.
It's clutch.
Dream, but you got to do.
Yeah. You could probably say it 20 other ways too.
Yeah.
Man. Aaron, this is another good one. I think that for each of you who are watching, there's what if situations that you've been through that have then, as you've had that growth mindset within it, you've taken action. And as you have, we would love to hear those. I mean, I love hearing you tell stories, but we love hearing the stories from the folks that are listening to the podcast as well. And maybe that's you today. Go ahead and drop us a comment down below. Take a minute, like this episode, share it with somebody, subscribe to the podcast. There's a ton of awesome things that are up ahead, and we would love to have you a part of it. Aaron, thanks for the wisdom today.
Thanks, EJ.
Have a great day.
Hope your voice feels better.
Yeah, me too.
Okay.